and then everything gets redirected to the attacker's machine. If there is HTTPS involved, generally what happens is the user will get a error message stating that there's something wrong with the certificate. What do you want to do? Do you want to continue? And usually they'll say, yes, I want to continue. And when they do, then everything that's encrypted goes through the attacker's machine unencrypted, and then from the attacker's machine to the server encrypted. So the server never knows there's anything wrong. And then we have a successful min in the middle attack. Again, ARP cache poisoning, man in the middle, same thing. There you go. All right, we have what's called DHCP, the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol Server. Now, DHCP server goes through what's called the DORA process. It stands for Discover, Offer, Request, and Acknowledge. Now, whenever your system boots up and gets onto the network, it actually will go out there and do a discover of a DHCP server. The DHCP server that gets discovered will make an offer to the client. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. And the client will say, hey, I'm going to take your offer that I can't refuse. And can I request what you just offered me? And then the server comes back and says, yeah, acknowledged. I will do that. That's called DORA. Discover, Offer, Request, Acknowledge. That's the process that it goes through whenever your system goes into the network and tries to find an IP address. Now, if there is no DHCP server available, then your system will assign itself its own IP address known as the APIPA, APIPA, Automatic Private IP Addressing. And it starts with a 169.254 address. So if you've ever come across that before where you're like, hey, what's your IP address? And they'll say 169.254. You should know right away, oh, they don't have an IP address. They're not seeing a DHCP server. The fix usually for that is to restart the system or do a IP config from the command prompt with a / release and then an IP config / renew to try to renew that IP address. Now, with a DHCP starvation attack, what basically happens is this. The attacker, this is kind of the twofold type of thing. So an attacker will see a DHCP server on the network. They will try to do what's called a DHCP starvation attack, which just as it sounds, it starves out any available IP addresses on that server so it doesn't have any more to hand out. So when the next client comes up, finds the server, but the server doesn't have any IPs to hand out, so the client will get the APIPA, the 169.254. Now, there is a second part to this. Once the DHCP starvation attack is successful, the attacker will set up their own rogue DHCP server so they can then control the data flowing through the network. And that's the idea there. All right, so anyway, there it is. It's called the DHCP starvation attack. This is definitely something you should know. It is a type of what we call a denial of service attack, where the DHCP server here cannot issue new IP addresses to genuine host requests. New clients, of course, cannot obtain access to the network, resulting in that DHCP starvation attack. And here we have the DHCP spoofing attack. So as DHCP servers can assign IP addresses to clients dynamically, the attacker, here it goes, places a rogue DHCP server between the client and the real DHCP server. And again, if the real DHCP server is unavailable because of the starvation attack, it's not going to be able to hand out anything anyways. So when the client sends a request, the attacker's rogue server then intercepts the communication and then acts as the DHCP server by replying with fake IP addresses. Yeah, and they can pretty much control wherever you're going, whatever IPs and everything, of course, could be attacker controlled and such too. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, is this so easily done out there in the world? And the answer is yay and nay, yes and no sometimes. So obviously there are things you can implement to protect yourself against these types of attacks. And of course, this is the sort of a network defender course. So we will definitely talk about some of those things and how to protect yourself against those. Again, this is just the module 1 so far. We're just kind of talking about the specific terminology. And like I said, this module is packed with so much information that we would normally have it in different modules, but we will definitely be re-engaging on some of these in the up and coming modules as well.